Hello, and welcome to my podcast, Good Grief. My name is Dr. Christine Malone, and in this podcast, we talk about trauma, tragedy, and survival. In each episode, I will interview someone that has gone through grief in some way, and we will discuss the impact it has had on their life. By sharing these stories, we hope that others won't feel alone should they be going through similar situations. Enjoy. Okay, listeners, thank you so much for joining me for today's podcast. My guest today is going to talk about the story of how she lost her husband and the journey she's been on since then. So, guest, if you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what happened with your husband.
Well, my name is Kenra Henry. I live in Kentucky. I have 4 children. I'm a mother of 4 children. They are now 11, 10, 9, and 8, and I'm a widow. And that's I guess, what I'm going to talk about. It was almost 4 years ago, I guess now, that he passed, and it was real. He left. Well, okay, I'll start. Anyway, he left for work, and I kind of knew that something was wrong because, like, I had messaged, and he usually would message whenever he gets to work, and he never told him, he never said anything. So I kind of was nervous because it was like 7:30 in the morning. He had left at like 6 something. Well, I took the kids to the bus stop, come back home, and something just felt like I was sick, like my stomach, I was sick. I called dispatch, and because I looked at my phone and it said that there was a wreck on the road, like, they showed like the red line, and like that. Oh, I was sick. And then I went to or I come outside and I called dispatch, and I said, "Are they a wreck on that road?" And they said, yes. And I said, "Well, my husband hasn't answered, and I'm really concerned." And she said, "What was he driving?" And I told him, and I could hear her voice crack. So I knew that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell me, she didn't want to deliver that news. She said, "Well, I will get a hold of the state troopers and they would be able to get you through, like to get there." So I ran down to my mom's, which is like a block, and which I ran down there to get her husband to take me. And I was like, "He's dead. He's dead." And my mom was like, "Kenra, he's not. He's, he can't be. That's just her way." And I just knew with everything in me that he was dead. And then it wasn't probably not too long after, like before we could get ready to go, the cop car pulled up, and I guess we all know like that. So they didn't even have to say anything. I just walked outside and just screamed no. And there was that just, that if we've suffered a huge loss, that we all like just the woo. And that was I don't remember pretty much rest of that day. I don't, like, people come, I don't remember none of really, which kind of went into the next year. Kind of don't remember nothing from that year. But one of the major things that I remember, because then it comes the second part of the worst thing, is because now I have to explain to 4 children that their dad's not coming home.
And at the time, so they would have been like 4, 5, 6, and 7 if it was 4 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So
tell
yeah. Us how that went.
The school was really good. They brought them home, didn't want to bring them home on the bus because we live in a small town. It's just, it would have been, they would have, like, that it makes me sick to my stomach now, just that, thinking of them coming, like, but they knew something was wrong. Austin, my one that is very sensitive, he can pick up on he's very much like me. He told me later on, he's like, "I knew something was wrong, but I was thinking that maybe somebody was sick with cancer." Like, so he already felt like this is bad. Something's wrong. But he said, but I never expected for, him to just be gone. And I'm like, I know, baby, I know. But like, I had no clue how, like, no one does. Like, like I would beat myself up, like I handled this horrible. But like the school, they come and I remember sitting down and telling them, and that just breaks my heart now, thinking about now, like just that big emotions that they had to be experiencing. But the problem was I was too stuck in my own, which is common. I don't beat myself up for it now, but like I couldn't really even grasp what was going on with them, like how scary that had to be for them. Because then, for the next say year, they was really worried about like what happened to me, what would happen, like it was understandable.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really able to connect with that. Like I was so just running. I mean, I following it, he had life insurance. So it was able to, really just give me the freedom to run is what it done. It didn't like you think that you want money until you have money, and then you just have a lot of pain. So then it's just a
Yeah,
why you run.
money doesn't take pain away.
No,
That's the truth.
no. And people will act like, oh, well, at least you had this. Yeah, like I got, there was a $250,000 check that come in the mail. And it's like, at the time, even, like, okay, well, you can fix all this, you can do all this. But no, all as I did was run from my pain. Like, that's it. Like, I bought a house and all of this and everything, like, but it didn't fix anything. Like, I really just, for a year, I was involved in everybody else's drama, so much just ignorance, nothing that I should have been doing. I mean, just foolish. I mean, 1,500 items from Amazon, like the first year, like it was just like, and I start to realize like, this is what most people have been doing their whole lives, like is just running from this, including me. I mean, that's what I was doing. Like,
With that pain. Yeah.
yeah, like, and I realized like, and that's part of like my healing in the past 2 years, to really realize like, do I want to heal or do I want to keep staying in that? Like, so anyway, that's on the part. But back, like, so for the first year, it was also during when COVID hit. And the kids was in school. Well, they was in school and then they was out of school. And then this mother, me, was supposed to be their teacher, like, because they was home. They like, shoot, I don't know how we, I don't know how we got through this. I really have no clue, but we did halfway. But it was after this that I started to see that it wasn't just my pain that I was running from. And I guess that was the moment that I really knew something had to change. I could not stay stuck in this pattern, because I noticed like I was loving them to say just the way that I was loving myself. I was buying me things to cover up my pain, and then, buy them a switch. Oh, they're sad. Oh, I hate this. Give them everything they want because they're going through stuff. Like, all they really needed was me to set the hell down and be with them. That's all that they needed me to do. But I didn't know that at the time because, I mean, I grew up in dysfunction with 2 alcoholic parents that never knew how to be with no one's pain. And I guess for a long time, just to touch on this for a second, like for a long time, I thought like that my parents didn't love me. It was me that they didn't love because they was never present with me. And then I realized in my own mess that that's exactly what I was doing to my kids. So I guess a lot of that healing come through to realize that my parents did love me. They just didn't know how to love themselves. They didn't know how to be present with themselves. So that's whenever this whole started to come to me like, hey, well, you can do this. You don't have to, do anything special. Just be there. Like, that's all your kids need. And I could tell like the pain, like looking in their eyes, was something that I knew all too well. And it wasn't like they had lost their dad. It was, they was alone in that pain. And that's as an only child.
Yeah, they lost their mom too, because you weren't
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like as an only child to both alcoholics that, I mean, my dad, they loved me, but they, it was their own mess that they never could connect with me. And it was that whole history that was able to make me see, like, well, you can do something. Like, you feel stuck in this, but like, that part of me just knew that I had to get through this. So that's whenever the whole, like, okay, well, how because nobody knows. Like, so then I stopped. Like, I remember being outside and my mom was like, what are you going to do whenever you're broke? And I was like, I'm going to sit here and color. Like, like, I won't have to deal with no one. I won't have to, because whenever you have money, you have people, all kinds of people. and, and so that brought all kinds of, and since I was a fixer and I fixed everybody's problems to avoid fixing my own, I was real convenient. It was real convenient for everyone. So, besides me. But once I realized what I was doing, to my kids, that was, I guess, the turning point. But now I forgot where I was going.
Well, let's pivot over. I want to talk about what kind of support did you have at the time? You mentioned a small town, so
yeah.
was there any
Well,
support for you or anything?
No, the support was, like, people say, like, oh, well, they didn't have no one. Like, I get it. Like, my mom was the one that before the funeral, she was tore up because she didn't know what she was going to wear. Meanwhile, I'm trying to dress myself and my 4 children, but my mom, which has always been, she makes her problems everybody else's problems, because she didn't deal well with pain. I mean, she covers it up. That's what she's always done. So she shows up late, drunk, to the funeral, and I'm like, so that's just a whole nother, like, excuse me, I'm sorry. But that was a whole nother, like, okay, this is, like, but you can't even really think about it, but that still hurts, like, at the time, like, okay, yeah, of course, you show up, you're drinking, so that's not you being present for me or nothing else, because she's showing up all smiles and, just waving at everybody and acting like that, oh, like, everything is, because she don't want to show the pain. I get it. No one does. So there was so many people at the funeral, but, like, of course, I see no one. Like, I don't really remember anyone being there. And part of it was me. I had disconnected from everyone before because I was, hate to say, so much like my mom. Let's not show that vulnerability. Let's not show that pain to anyone. So I can't really blame other people for not support, because if they asked me, I would say I was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was afraid. No one had ever been there to give me the support. I didn't know that was something, that people do for each other, like, just support people through that, just sit there and listen. I didn't know. So that was really something that I guess, like, I've learned along the way, that that's what people need. They just need someone just to listen, no one just to fix it, like we've all, like we all get in the habit of doing. It's just to be there through it. And I was going to speak about how, like, my dad, that was the whole, he also, like, he paid for the funeral, but he didn't come. So it was only my mom and my stepdad, which my stepdad has been a very present, loving man for 13 years. But I never seen that because I wanted my dad. My dad was who I loved more than anything, and he's who raised me, but he wasn't there. So, like, I really took that love that Roger, which is my stepdad, would give me. Like, I didn't see him as, like, but he stood beside me at the funeral, and he was there. Meanwhile, the funeral was a mess. Like, the only thing that I remember there was my kids' handprints across the casket. And you're thinking, this is not right. This is not how this is supposed to be. But, like, it's a mess. Like, you don't, like, that's what I really like, it hurts to think, because there's other people that's in this situation. Like, a funeral is happening and you're the one that everybody's expecting to orchestrate this thing, and you have no clue. Like, luckily somebody gave me some songs. Like, I don't, like, I hadn't been to a funeral since I didn't have a clue how none of that worked. But like it all did, and there was some people following, I don't know, that she was there. It was my husband's cousin, and they was there, and I remember they was more like, oh well, they was in from another state, and they was like, oh well, this is gonna be something we can get together. They was gonna celebrate, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like family time. They was glad to, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, what do y'all mean? Like, you know, uh, but I get it. But 2 weeks after, she wrote me because she went back home. Her husband left, or he was killed, and she wrote me and she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm
Um,
so sorry, because she knew that pain then, like, and then another friend that I lived that was in Michigan. I mean, my husband worked with her husband, and like we went to the zoo. It wasn't, she lived far away, but anyway, like, um she wrote me, and this was back whenever I was still running, and this is one of my biggest regrets, is like I was scared to death to answer the phone. I remember not talking to her. Like, she had lost her husband, and I'm like, I have no clue what the hell to tell you. Like, I'm stuck. Like, I'm, like, I don't have, no one is.
yeah, at the time, yeah.
I had no, and now, like, I've talked to her since, and, really apologize for not being there, because that I knew she was trying to reach out, because I'm sure she was in that same spot I was in,
Right.
and just wanting somebody, hey, tell me like that this is going to be okay. And I'm over here like, I don't know at this point that it's going to be okay. Like, I had no clue. And luckily, like, she's remarried, she's doing good, and like, it all does work out. But I know, like, during those times, and that's what I hurt, because I know that I really, like, you know abandoned her, then, like, made her feel like that. Oh, like, it's, I don't know, it's just but
You find
anyways.
out, yeah, you find out who your true friends are during that, because I know
Oh yeah.
my true
Yeah.
friends of grief. I know I've turned my back on friends that I know love me and I love them, but I just couldn't deal with anything. And they were still there for me when I was ready to do something. And I mean, that just is amazing to me.
Yeah.
That's how you have a really good friend, is when they are there for you, even in crappy times, or even when times when you're crappy, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. So
so you
that's really, go ahead.
so you said, you got to the point where you were done running. So what was it you started to do, or steps you started to take, or whatever at that point in time, to say, I'm taking control, I'm going to be back in charge here? What did that look like, or where did you go to find resources, or whatever it was?
Oh, well, I just stopped any kind of contact with pretty much anyone. I don't recommend that, like, but that was all I knew to do. I didn't know that you could reach out. That's why now it's so important. I want people to reach out. But I didn't know that that was a thing that you did. So, like, but I started, really went inward. I didn't talk to anyone. Um, I started a garden, and I started doing that, and I like put all this time in, and it grew. Like, I had so much stuff growing, but I didn't do nothing with it, because I didn't really know. I didn't, it was just something that I wanted just to do, it just felt right. I know now I read stuff and it tells you to do those things, but like at the time, you're just kind of just doing what feels, more healing, that just to be more present with yourself. So, like, I done, and then I also done a lot of journaling. I done a
Mm.
lot and lot of journaling. And then I done about 6 months of like puzzles. And it's like, I've like thought that, I have reached, my, like, this is just what I'm going to be now. It's just this lady that sits around and does puzzles. But like, it really was, I just needed that space. I just needed to free up this space in my head to actually give my brain time to be like, okay, now we can start to process some of this stuff. Like, and that's whenever I knew, like at first you really don't know, like, that it's working. You don't know, like, because you're not like, oh, I'm better. You just kind of feel like you're headed in the right direction. Like, and I would try to, at least then give myself more space to like grieve and to cry. And like, instead of like whenever a song would come on, I know a lot of people will turn that off, like, oh no, that hurts. And I learned to actually just be more present with that. Like, yeah, this is it, but it's okay. Like, I would let the song play. I would let it. And as I was able to give me more like that safe space within me, I become that for my kids. And that was the whole goal of it all, because they was holding on to their because it's hard for a kid to come, to complain about anything whenever their mom is a mess, much less these huge feelings that they have circulating. So I realized that, in order for them to feel safe enough with me, I had to feel safe. And so it was probably a year following that I started. And then it was probably the next year that I really started focusing more on their pain, like processing it. Like, it's crazy because we went to the doctor, and Brayden, my oldest, he was like, my mom just wants to talk about feelings all the time. And but now, like, he is so like, they was on ADHD medicine, they was on all the, like, they're not on anything now. Like, my second oldest, he would come home with his pockets full of stuff. He would pick up everything, because he said whenever he would like go to throw away a piece of paper, he would see a face on it. And like, and I knew that that was all tied to this law, not wanting to get rid of stuff. And I was like, buddy, I have a garage full. Like, I get it. This is something we have to work through. But like, so I was able more to talk with him to help him understand why he was doing it, rather than why the hell do you got all this stuff in your pocket every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I was more able to more understand what was going on with them and talk them through it. And then like, more talk about like their dad would come up, like, and I guess that's also like, I had no choice but to process, because every time you look at them, you think of, your your spouse. You look at them and you're at the like their graduation, and you're at their first football games, and you're at everything that most people don't realize that brings up so huge amount of grief, that like, like, you just wish that they was here. And then that your child is going through that same thing, like wanting their daddy to see them do this, wanting their daddy to like.
Yeah, your kids are so young. And I just want to share the term I like to use is pockets of grief. And those pockets of grief will come up throughout their lives. I mean, as I share with you, my first husband passed away when my kids were 2 and 4, and my 2-year-old was my daughter. And even all the events, the graduation, her wedding, the birth of her 2 children, all those things where you would want to have your parents there. Those little pockets of grief come up, and it's just as fresh as it was when you lost the person, because it's like you reopened this thing to realize that that person, in normal life, whatever that means, would be there for you, is really hard. Not only for you, but yeah, prepare for that with the kids, because there'll be a lot of those episodes all the way into their adult lives where it'll come up, and all you can do is talk about their feelings, and you're already prepared to do that. But just I know for me, those were always hard times. It's like when I would see my kids sad, I don't want to see my kids sad. So
Yeah, we want
yeah,
to protect that. And and I was really thankful for the healing as far as in where I got, because okay, so after I'm going to touch on my son. There was a rooster, and he loved this rooster. It followed everyone around the yard. It was like a dog. And we'd only had him for like a year. um anyway, like, Austin, he just, which is the one that had the stuff in his pockets, the one that is really struggles a lot, because he's real sensitive. He feels everything so deeply. And I was leaving, and he comes running, and I could tell by the way that he said mommy that something was bad wrong. And he just falls into me, because a raccoon had got into Ernie's coop and got him. And this, like, it was such a proud, like, hurtful, like, oh, I was a mess. And it was just beautiful though, because like, we was handling it like we should have. Just break down, and it's okay. And the fact that like, whenever your kid just falls into you, like, and that moment. But I was so proud because like I would have never been able to be that place for him a year or two before. I wouldn't have been able to, we would have just got another damn rooster. Like what I mean? We would have just fixed this real quick, but we didn't. Like he went and got a shovel and he went and bug him, and it's raining and we're all out there to like had to go get him and had to like so. And then afterwards he's mad at all raccoons, wants them all dead, and I'm like, baby, I know that's just like, and it's just crazy because that's how it works. Like he was mad at the person that um crossed over and hit his dad. Like he was mad at her forever, wanted spoke very you know angry things about what would happen, what he wanted to happen to her, and all of that. But like this was just beautiful to be able to see, because now like he's not mad at all raccoons. He's not, like, he's processed that. Like we can talk about Ernie now, like it's good, and just like we can talk about their dad now, like the beauty. And I think that that's what most of us, we hide behind that pain for so long, covering it up, and we miss talking about the good that's all there. Like, because no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about Ernie, or we don't want to upset him, or so many talk about Justin, which I'm sure most people in grief, a lot of people, they just want to talk about it. That's all they want to do. And then, but most people don't want to upset them and all, like I get it. That it was just, like I'm just so thankful for it to be able to actually be that safe place for my kids now. Like after so long of running, after so long of baiting and covering up and fixing their feelings, I could finally just be there to support them.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a comment before we started recording about the thought of writing a book called, How to Grieve in a Society That Tells You Not to Grieve. And I think that really says a lot about our culture and how we handle or don't handle grief, especially.
Yeah. Just cover it up. Just fix it. There's a pill for it.
Yeah. Especially,
or there's sugar. There's always
there's
something.
alcohol, there's drugs, there's all kinds of things. And especially when it comes to an unexpected young person, whatever. I mean, if it's your 90-year-old grandfather, it's like, oh, I'm really sorry, but you had this wonderful 90-year-old grandfather, blah, blah, blah. But when it's the, 29-year-old or it's a kid or whatever, it's a very different kind of loss, and people are so uncomfortable talking about it that it doesn't make it any easier for those people who are it's like, well, I can't talk about it because I don't want to make you uncomfortable by bringing it up, because now you're all like, it's kind of like,
and then that uncomfortable is like they think that it's going to catch them, like that's what like, yes, and I see they are like, oh God, well that's, and I'm just in a relationship right now that it's really like trying to teach these whole feelings things, because I'm like, this is my feeling. It's not going to get you. I just need you to be present with it. Yeah. I just need you to not run from it, not make me feel bad for feeling bad. You don't need to fix it, because I get it. I used to be that person that like, oh God, somebody's tore up here. Let me do whatever, sacrifice myself as much as possible to make you feel better. And I realized that that's not how it works. Right. That we just need that space to feel.
So that's the important part, is to feel. Now I want to talk about, I know you got into life coaching, so tell me how you made that move, and kind of who are the people you work with, what's their demographic, and what made you want to do that?
I really okay, this was about a year ago that I really wanted to now be more there for people that whenever I needed it, like the people, whenever I was really struggling and unsure what to do. So I wanted to then be able to be that strong person that's, instead of telling people like, oh, it's okay, or, everything happens for a reason, just hold space for them. So I wanted to be able to, do that in an impactful way or whatever. So that's what, I got into life coaching, to try to actually, be there. Whenever people actually need it, which is hard for, I don't even know if in the spot that I was in, if I would have been able to reach out, like, because I guess I didn't even know like that was available, or that was something that people do. Like I just went to the doctor and got an antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and something else, a mood stabilizer.
Yep. I hear that.
Which I'm off of all. I took myself off all of them. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't, which I don't recommend, don't recommend that. But, I gradually was like, I knew that the only way to heal was to feel like that. I had to let myself feel it because I learned this the hard way. So like, that's why, like, now I work with people that especially have young kids and they're trying to process their grief. And because just the understanding of what we're doing to our kids whenever we're right is usually enough for parents to be like, okay, I have to fix this, or they're going to be fixed. Somebody along this generation is going to have to, fix whatever it is. So usually that gives us the courage to be like, okay, I've got to work on this instead of just covering it up. But I don't know where I was going again.
The people you work with, so are they mostly younger people who've had a lot of
yes, most of them. I do work with some that's just just grief in general. One, she had lost her son. It was shortly after, like it was probably a year or two after. Well, so I was into my healing journey enough then to be like, just to reach out to her and just tell her, like, the only thing you have to do is feel. Like, I know everybody's going to make you feel guilty. They're going to make you feel like that. Don't talk about him. They're going to make you feel all of this stuff, but you have to just be able to just feel this loss. And she's doing so, like, she told me, like a year later, she was like, there was nobody that, could have talked to me and told me the stuff that you done. She's like, so many people wrote to me and told me, things happen for, like all of these things that none of it was really how to move on now. What are you supposed to do? And that's whenever I started to realize that, that was the most important thing, is to just feel it. And that was like, the message that, like, now anybody that I work with is that I just want to give them that permission to feel, because ultimately that's how we heal.
Yeah. So you're the safe place for them, whether they have, a support elsewhere or not. You're the safe place that says it's okay to feel, it's okay
Yeah.
to express how you feel, and to talk about it. And that's, I think, I know from my own experience with grief that talking about it is really what
Mm-hmm.
was the
Mm-hmm.
key. I can't keep this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pretend like it didn't happen. I can't. And the other thing is, I can't hold on to only the good memories. I gotta remember that there was, there's bad stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to own that. But eventually, the good does kind of outweigh the
Yeah.
bad and stuff. But we still have those pockets of grief that'll come back, Father's Day, whatever, where it's like
Oh yeah.
birthdays, you remember these things, and it's those things don't really get easier. I think they just get, I want to use the word softer. Maybe they're not as
Yeah.
full of a dagger going in as time goes by.
That more understanding of it is
Yeah.
really what, help. Like with my kids, Brayden at one time was like, no, just whenever somebody says daddy, it hurts so bad. And,
Yeah.
like, that's just, and I'm like, baby, I know. But I just wanted him to understand that, like, instead of getting angry, because I think that as a society, that's often what we want to do, like be jealous. Now I have something against this person over here just because they have a dad. Like now I'm going to find all kinds of things that I don't like about them. But like we was able to actually talk about, like, and he was able to process the fact that it's nothing against them. It's just he misses his own dad. He wishes he had that. So, and it wasn't, so instead of like him just getting mad at everyone that has a dad, which is understandable, but he really, got through that. Like I think just because of that understanding that, like it was something within him that he had to work on and not something outside of him.
I really want to commend you, especially with kids as young as yours, for getting them on that path at such a young age. I know that's not easy to do, and it also is going to set them up for a life of
Yeah.
healthy relationships and ability to
Yeah.
talk, what kind of stuff.
That's what I told Brayden is
So
like, you will thank me one day, that your mommy was so much into feelings, because like your mommy ran from forever and they was on the same path. My two oldest, I'm still trying to correct, the dysfunction that I done, the avoidance, the running from the, all of that, like that I done. And my two youngest, now I caught them more, I appeared back on scene or become more present in time for them to really not to develop so many unhealthy coping skills. Um, so he's really still like my third one. He's just so present, and so like it's just amazing what like healing really can do. Like, I mean, mine two oldest, they're better, they're off medicine, they're their school's improving, everything, we're doing better. But I really do regret a lot, but I can stay stuck in that, for so
Well,
long.
you've got to give yourself grace. You didn't have any idea what to do. Nobody
No.
did that. There's no book. There's no, offer. And I love that you're paying it forward in the work that you're doing now. And if you think about just the number of people that you are helping, it is really cool. I really think that's an awesome thing to get into. I know I've met a lot of people who channel their grief into helping others, and I'm always just like, that's just such a, I mean, again, because the person that you're talking to who doesn't know, you don't want them stuck in those years like you were
Yeah,
stuck.
like I was, yeah, because that's what I ultimately, I don't know, there was a book, somebody from Justin's work had sent me, and it said, you can't heal anything that you can't feel. And that's really what opened my whole eyes. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I have been not feeling my entire life. Like, so like it was those little pamphlets, like these little snippets of like information that really can set our whole trajectory of our life on a different path. Because so that's what I realized, like with me, like for a while I was stuck, like how could I help, how can I be there, how can I, but then I think about my own path and how it was just those simple things, like with the person whenever she lost her son, and her just knowing that it was okay to feel this, it's going to hurt, just that permission was really all that she needed to be able to move on forward. Like she did a year later, started moving on with getting rid of his stuff, and she was just, and it's beautiful to see her to get to that process, to get to that, because I know that that's a whole nother issue, like that we don't really realize until it happens to us, all that stuff that happens.
And that grieving process is never the same from one person to another, but it all still incorporates a lot of those same things. I mean, anger definitely in there, depression, all that kind of stuff is so normal in the grieving process. And to tell people, that that's normal and that it's okay and you can talk to me about it is just such a great thing. We are going to link to your website when we post your podcast so that other people can reach out to you if they would like to do so. But before we go, anything else you'd like to share about your experience or advice you would give someone who maybe is grieving, anything along those lines?
um the only thing would be to feel it. I know it sucks, and I know it's nothing about it is easy, but the biggest thing whenever you're going through anything is to just let yourself feel it, because if you cover it up, I promise it will. I love this quote that says something about, a feeling won't kill, will never kill you, but running from it certainly will. And I feel like that's what so many of us are doing. Like I ran from my pain for years, even prior. Like, so feeling was the ultimately way that I found myself and was like, okay, you've running from yourself for so long, so let's just stop and feel.
What a great message. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. I've really enjoyed hearing you. I've written down several comments that you've made because they really resonate with me. So
Well, thank you for having me. I know this is all new, and it's all like I will get so, because they are so much that I want to share and want to be able to help others with. But that's still that part of me that is like, like that gets nervous and gets anxious, and it's all just working through it. I know I just gotta work through it, but
it's that humanity that you exude that really, I can see why that would really help people, because you're very human and real, and in the moment, it's no catchphrases or whatever. You just
yeah.
that to me, I mean, I can totally feel that genuine thing coming from you, which I think is amazing. So again, thank you so much for what you do. It has been a pleasure to meet you, and have a great rest.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Good Grief. To hear more about my personal story, please pick up a copy of my book, The Day I Became the Spider Killer, a memoir of trauma, tragedy, and survival, available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible via Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other online book retailers.